Your attention, masters, mistresses. All systems functional for the Everything Geek podcast.
Hey, this is Rich McDonald, and I play Commander David Mason on Call of Duty Black Ops 2. And you're listening to Everything Geek podcast.
It's James Arnold Taylor, the voice of Obi-Wan Kenobi and Master Plo Koon in Star Wars: The Clone Wars, and you're listening to Everything Geek, the podcast.
Hey, it's Leif Gamfert. I played Uncle Ben's killer in The Amazing Spider-Man, and you're listening to the Everything Geek podcast.
Hello, I'm Simon Fisherbecker. You probably know me better as Dorian Moldavar from Doctor Who, or the Fat Friar from Harry Potter. And this is Everything Geek podcast.
Face it, Tiger. You just hit the jackpot with the Everything Geek podcast.
You're listening to the Everything Geek podcast, bringing you interviews from your favorite films and TV shows every week, and all of the latest news. Here's your host, Ruari Williamson.
Hello everyone, you're listening to the Everything Geek podcast. I'm your host Rory, and joining me today is a very special guest. We have actor David Shaughnessy, best known as the voice of Commandant Cumberlayne Aresko and Taskmaster Myles in Star Wars Rebels, Klaue in Avengers Assemble, Heathcliff in Big Hero 6, Prophet Velen, Elothir and Senegos Projection in World of Warcraft Legion, Velen in World of Warcraft Warlords of Draenor, Master Shang Xi in World of Warcraft Mists of Pandaria, General Gage and the Mayor in Fallout 4, Vigil and the Colonist in Mass Effect and the local population in Grand Theft Auto 5. He was also a director and producer on The Young and the Restless and the director on The Bold and the Beautiful. He's reprising the role of Heathcliff for Big Hero 6 the series. How are you today, David?
I'm good, thanks. I'm very good, thanks. Very good. How's everything with you?
Great, thank you. It's a pleasure
Good.
to have you on the show today.
It's good to be here.
And it only occurs to me that, you know, when I put the titles and the full names for the Rebels characters, they are very hard to say back to back.
I know. Yeah, a bit of a mouthful.
Yeah, definitely. So getting right into the questions, David. First of all, for some background information for some listeners who might not be familiar with your work, can you tell us how you got into acting?
Yeah, sure. Actually, I was at school, when I was at school at high school, my brother and I were both my brother was the big actor, and he is actually, he's now quite well known here. But I I kind of liked to act, but it was a little scary for me. So I was a drummer. I became a drummer and drummed in various different bands at the school, things. And then one day I thought, I don't really like academic work, so I decided to become an actor. So I auditioned for one of the plays and got the lead, which was great. And left early, left when I was 16 and went to drama school, to the Central School of Speech and Drama in London. And became an actor in theater and did TV and some movies. And then actually my brother he went to drama school too and became an actor. And then he came over here to Los Angeles. And I came over and visited him, and I really, really liked L.A. I loved it. And it was a great place with lots of opportunity. And I'd actually just done a movie called Labyrinth with Jim Henson in London. And he introduced me to a whole bunch of people out here in L.A. And I came and met with them and got into voiceovers and then slid halfway through into directing and producing. And that's how I kind of came over here to L.A.
It's very interesting, and we will talk about that a bit more in the interview later on, of course, because you are not just an actor, but of course a producer and director, so you've been in quite a few different areas of the industry.
Yeah, jack of all trades. Not sure if I'm a master of any, but certainly a jack of all of them.
Well, it's good to be humble, at least. Yeah, so in terms of Star Wars Rebels, can you tell us how you were originally cast as Aresko and Grint in Rebels?
Yeah, it was just, it was a very simple, I get a lot of voiceover auditions from my agent. I mean, a tremendous amount. We get I would say probably at some point, at least one or two a day. And one of these came through and it was Star Wars Rebels, and it was, I think it was for the 2 characters, but I don't think they expected to cast 1 actor for the 2 parts. But I sent in the auditions and didn't hear anything for a very long time, and I sort of kind of forgot it, and you move on. And then suddenly I got the call that they wanted me to do it, and I thought, oh, that's nice. But at the time, I thought it was just a 1-episode deal. So I turned up, and they were very protective, obviously, about the scripts because it's high confidential and secret. And so when I got there, they were explaining, and it sounded like, sounds like I'm in this quite a bit. And so, I turned up, and the first day we were all in the recording booth together, and I did the 2 characters, literally talking to myself with them, which was fun, and everybody seemed to enjoy that. And that's how it started. So it's just, it's so much about throwing spaghetti at the wall in voiceover because you don't know what they're looking for, what they want. You don't even have artwork necessarily, so you can't even manage to fit a voice to that particular character because you don't know what they look like. So it's just, it's luck of the draw, really. And but it worked out for a few episodes anyway.
Yeah, definitely. Just for a few episodes. We'll get to that a bit more soon.
Yeah.
And did you mention that, in some voiceover with actors that voice multiple characters, they'll do all of the lines in an episode for one character and then do the lines for the other? Did you do it that way, or did you actually do Aresko, then Grint, then Aresko?
No, actually, I did Aresko and Grint at the same time. I was doing one of these things, So no, I did on that. I actually did them totally the same, which was fun. I mean, it's much more interesting that way, and I prefer to do it that way. And everybody was kind of nice and impressed, so that was nice. So it pumped up my ego, but it's more fun to do that anyway because you got to be able to play off something, sometimes, and it's very hard to play off something if you're just doing your lines and not hearing the other lines or being able to respond to them. So it worked out much better, I think.
Yeah, definitely. It sounds a lot more authentic in the final product, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I listen to some shows where you can kind of tell a little bit that, even if one actor is voicing multiple characters, you can kind of tell they recorded this character, all his lines, and the next character, all their lines, and then another character, all their lines.
Right. Well, it's all in the rhythm, too. It's in the rhythm, there's a certain rhythm to a scene, and when you're playing backwards and forwards, and it's hard to keep that in mind if you're doing it all just the one and then the other because you don't hear the rhythm to be able to play off it, So, yeah, I actually recently I did on this other series, Tom and Jerry, I'm doing these 2 characters, but they preferred to record all of one character and then all of the other. So I didn't get it. But one episode, I literally I think it was just me, these 2 characters, the whole episode just talking. But I was hoping they would let me do it that way, but they wanted to do it separately. So
it's very interesting. And before you were cast in Rebels, were you a Star Wars fan?
I was actually, funnily enough, I was at drama school with Carrie Fisher when I was at Central. She was the year below me, and Carrie and Mark Hamill, when they were shooting, She left the drama school a year early, and so when I was in my last year, she was shooting Star Wars, and we used to meet her and Mark Hamill sometimes, a whole bunch of us in the evenings at our local pub. And we'd finish drama school and I'd finish classes and go to the pub, and they'd finish shooting and come to the pub and tell us about what was going on. And, and they were always talking about how weird it was. It was all green screen and blue screen and strange stuff. And they weren't really sure what it was, what the animal was and how good it was going to be. And of course, it was amazing. So, yeah. And I got the laser disc collection. Shows how old I am, and watched the trilogy over and over again, and showed my kids and stuff. So yeah, I was quite a fan to begin with. It's lost me a little bit down some of the movies because it's funny, you get so invested in the characters, and now suddenly there are so many new characters, and you kind of hanker for those original characters. They're the ones you sort of really cared about,
Yeah, well, that's a really interesting story. I didn't actually know that about you. Well, I mean, I'd read that you went to that drama school. I just didn't realize Carrie went to the same school, and that, in adjacent years kind of thing. Well, not adjacent, that's the wrong word. But you were the year above her, and she was the year below.
Right. Yeah. Anyhow, a couple of parties and things she gave and stuff. She was great. She was really sweet, very sweet girl.
Definitely. In terms of Aresko and Grint as well, which of their characters did you find them more challenging to come up with? Because they both have very different voices.
Yeah, I don't know. I think the Aresko was a little tougher because they wanted to change it. They didn't. I was kind of playing him very lightweight because he was much thinner than Grint. And I think they wanted something a little less than that. So for the first episode, I did it one way, and then they wanted to re-record a few lines, giving them a little bit more weight, because I was kind of thinking in terms of, oh my goodness, I can't remember his name now. Peter Cushing, thank you. And that was a little bit too lightweight for them. They wanted something a little heavy. So I just had to sort of kind of work on him a little bit. But Grint was kind of, once I saw the artwork, it was pretty standard. Heavy duty guy, you know.
Yeah, I mean, the voice definitely fit Grint very well. You know, you just look at him, and that's the kind of voice you picture. So
yeah, well, that's the thing, and that's why it helps, and they show you artwork, but so often they don't, and that's really, really, really tricky. You know, when you're trying to, when you were recording a session, they do, but in an audition, it's very rare to get artwork, and that makes it so hard because, you know, the voice you give is the voice you respond to in the picture. So, you know, it's easier when you see that.
Definitely. Does it feel strange knowing that several of your characters' scenes in Rebels are them talking to each other, essentially you talking to yourself?
Yeah, I suppose it was only really, I think at that time it was only me doing that stuff. So it was kind of fun. I enjoyed it, but yeah, no, I enjoyed that. I love those characters. I wish they could have developed them a little more. It was sad that they ended up and did so quickly.
Yeah, definitely a really tragic ending for them that they had to get made an example of.
Yeah, really.
Yeah. Now, in terms of their deaths, when did you find out that they were both going to be killed off from Rebels?
Actually, when I walked into the studio, because the scripts, again, as I said, were very closely guarded, and they handed us the scripts as we walked in, and then Dave Filoni, the exec producer, and he basically sort of went through what the show was and said, and then, you know, sadly, I'm sorry, we're afraid, you know, Aresko and Grint get their heads cut off with a lightsaber. It's like, really? I was going through the script. It was a little bit of a shock. It was unexpected and rather sad. But I went back to do another character recently, totally different character for an episode. So Mitch Matt. So that was good. So I got another crack at it.
Really interesting. I can't wait to find out who that character is.
Yeah, it was just one episode, I think. I mean, I think it was only a quick one-off, but it was fun. It was fun to go back and see them all and hang.
Definitely. And so your reaction was pretty sad when both of them were killed off.
Oh yeah. I was a bit shocked, a bit sad, a bit stunned because, you know, I mean, although, you know, thinking about it, I thought it was only one episode, so at least I got I think it was 5 out of it. So, yeah. which I couldn't complain about, but it was and then I was greedy because I wanted more, but it was nice to get those.
Yeah, I think one of them had lines in 4 episodes and one had lines in 5. I think.
But yeah, there was one episode I think that Aresko was in that Grint wasn't. I think it was. Yeah.
Well, I think he was in. I think he was just in the background in that one.
Well, he didn't say anything. You know, he was he was like just drawing one there, but he didn't say anything.
Yeah, I think that was Empire Day. I'll have to look into that one, but I do.
Yeah, I can't remember exactly which one.
I remember there was an episode where Aresko had some lines and Grint barely featured at all, so that was a bit strange to see them not with each other, I guess. Right.
I do remember that, yeah.
It's a pity they didn't give you a heads up before killing them off, though.
Yeah, I suppose, although there's nothing I could have done, but, you know, unfortunately, plead for my life.
Did you see what I did there, though? That they didn't give you a heads up beforehand.
Oh, I see, a heads up. Oh, God. Oh, yeah. Oh, man. Yeah. Give you a heads off. I mean, a heads up.
Sorry, I just couldn't resist. Now, of course, a lot of your acting in recent years has been voiceover work for animated shows and video games. what do you find to be the differences recording for a show or a game, and which do you think is more challenging?
I think maybe it depends, obviously, on the show and on the game. I mean, there have been a lot of games that are just sort of rather not necessarily scenes with people where you don't necessarily get a to and fro. It's more just a sort of declamatory statements you're making, or yelling or shouting orders or something, which is easier because it's hard on the voice, but it's just sort of kind of yelling. The tricky ones are if you've got something fairly dramatic to do. And I suppose out of all of those, Velen has been the hardest, but the most rewarding because he's a really complex character, and I've had some really nice stuff to do with them. And it's been sort of kind of tough to hit that nice level where it's dramatic, but it's not over the top, and it's real and it's honest. And then some of the shows are just they're more fun, but of course they're also challenging insofar as you've got to play off somebody else, and so you're actually creating a scene, but that can also be much more rewarding. So it really does depend on the project, and they're getting very close now together. The video games are getting so much like shows. I mean, they're really full scenes and dramatic scenes or comic scenes and actual to and fro, so the line is kind of blurring now, and it's almost the same kind of process.
Definitely, that's a really great answer. Now, not only are you an actor, but of course, as I mentioned before, you're also a producer and director as well, having worked behind the scenes on the likes of The Young and the Restless and The Bold and the Beautiful. Which do you find to be the most challenging between acting, producing and writing, and why?
I think probably the most challenging was producing. I think when I was producing at The Young and the Restless, and then became exec producer on that show because producer, you're really in the booth every day, and you're working with actors, and you're trying to create the scenes, and you go out to give the notes to an actor to help them with a scene. You have the vision of the whole show because the producer reads way ahead and knows the story arcs. You have to be in charge of music, make sure the music fits, the look, the lighting, the costumes, the way you get a lot of responsibilities. So that was fairly challenging. But directing also can be challenging, again, depending on the project. I very early on directed 2 plays for Arts and Entertainment in New York, television plays, with some pretty big names, with Olympia Dukakis, and then with Anthony Edwards and Annette O'Toole and Edward Herman. And so that was fairly kind of scary because I'd only been directing for a short while, and suddenly somehow got this job with these extraordinarily heavyweight, really good actors. So that was challenging and pretty scary, but it all worked out well. But that was tough. I mean, just to sort of kind of understand, and I even actually got to direct the wraparounds for this series of plays with Lauren Bacall. So I actually directed Lauren Bacall, which was very scary.
Yeah, definitely. And finally, David, do you have any upcoming acting roles or any other projects that you would like to talk about?
Things like I'm doing this Tom and Jerry, which is a new series of that, which was fun. I'm doing a couple of recurring roles, as I said, which is the one where they're talking backwards and forwards, which I believe is coming out this year. And Big Hero 6, we're doing the TV series of that, which is fun. And did some patches for Velen on World of Warcraft the other day. So, things are bubbling along, and keep auditioning, and hope that I can keep in work.
Well, that is the most important thing, of course.
Yeah. Helps.
Yeah, definitely. Well, in your line of work, it would definitely help.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's all of my questions for you today, David. It's been a pleasure talking to you on the podcast.
Oh, great. Been a pleasure talking to you too. It's been fun.
And hopefully I can talk to you again at some point.
Absolutely. Anytime. Hopefully I'll have something else to talk about.
Yeah, your next Rebels character, even if it's episode 1.
Yeah, really.
Yeah, so I'll talk to you again soon. Thanks for being on the podcast today, and take care. Bye.
Thanks. Bye.
So time to wrap up this week's show. Make sure to check out our podcast links. Check out our website, website.everythinggeekpodcast.com/EGP. Check out our Facebook page, www.facebook.com/everythinggeekpodcast. Check out our YouTube channel, www.youtube.com/user/everythinggeekcast. Check us out on Twitter, twitter.com/everythinggeekp. Check us out on Instagram, instagram.com/official-everythinggeekpodcast. Check out our Mixcloud profile, www.mixcloud.com/everythinggeekpodcast. Email us at the following email, everythinggeekpodcast@gmail.com. Check out our companion podcast, Everything Geek Comiccast, www.facebook.com/everythinggeekcomiccast. Make sure to check out the hosts' YouTube channels. Mine is www.youtube.com/user/Septus Check out David Shaughnessy's website, www.davidshaughnessy.com, and check out channel 1138 where we broadcast live from, www.channel1138.com. Geeks out, everyone.
No, initially both George and Dave had really specific ideas about what they wanted, and some of them worked and some of them didn't. And you know, I would fly up.
I'd say, you know, reaching out for speaking Russian as Petrov in House of Cards, that was difficult. And